I guess we can get started. I'll give everyone a bit of a TLDR, Will, and then we can kind of get into it after we've kind of had a bit of an update from Carl. But thanks everyone in the audience for tuning in. I'll say we'll record this and put it on YouTube after, so for anyone who does miss it, then they can listen to it after. But thanks for tuning in for this week's AMA. I know we're trying to start a new series where each week one or two grantees will come on to discuss their grant, whether that's tooling, producing a research paper, so on and so forth. So we're really excited that we've got our kind of first V1.5 guest. I know that's Will from Bayswater Capital here, who has received two grants for his projects. Just to give everyone a quick TLDR, I guess, of the agenda. We obviously got Carl up here from the dYdX grants team and myself from the dYdX Foundation. I guess Carl will give a brief overview of the broader dYdX grants and the recent progress there, any new recipients, prospective grantees, and I guess the overall evaluation process for new people here today interested in that. And I'll then let Will touch on his grant and what they've been working on and what they're useful for. And I guess give a detailed picture of, again, what he's been working on both personally and professionally. We've pre-populated some questions that we'll ask, and then after this, I guess we can open the floor up for anyone who's interested in directing questions to Will, Carl, or myself. So I guess first off, Carl, shall I just start with you? I guess it'd be great to discuss anything grants related.
Yeah, for sure. Just to give a quick update to everybody. So yeah, V1.5 is chugging along. We're in the process of approving round 4 of V1.5, which is going to have a couple of grantees, some pretty interesting ones coming up, and then we have our existing grantees in place already that are working along really productively on the grants that have been issued. As a reminder, kind of the larger ones are the merchandise campaign, the academy project, and kind of the token design research. And then we've had a couple of other ones kind of on the smaller side, some other research ones and some other kind of events that have occurred on the international growth side. Merch, I think people have been able to follow along via their Twitter, and they've been kind of teasing at the community about all the different things that are getting released, and we're super excited now that we also approved the paperclip web store build, and the designs are coming along really well there. And yeah, we're really excited about that one. And I think the community will be super happy with the result, at least I hope. And then the academy is moving along really well also. Kind of the goal there obviously is to create a really new kind of version of existing crypto academies, right? So if you look at the ones that are out there, they just kind of publish content and they're great. And currently, if you look at dYdX, we don't have a real academy page. We have helpful content that's out there and content being produced by grantees, but it's all kind of a bit all over the place right now. And the existing page, the help page, is maybe not the most welcoming or friendly. And so the goal here is to create a really Web3 native academy page that's going to have campaigns where you can get rewarded with popes and different kind of gamification of the process and kind of make it a bit stickier for new users to learn and interact with the dYdX Academy page and then have it migrate onto the trading platform and be very interactive to make it a lot more fun. And again, designs there are going to be really revamped, and yeah, we're really excited about that one. And then all the different research pieces are coming along well. Also, the goal there being to address a lot of the open-ended questions that ourselves in the community will have to answer as we start to migrate towards the V4. And so that's where we continue to focus a lot of our attention now. We do still have quite a few openings for different research pieces, both on user growth, DAO structuring in a V4 setting, and different parameter and risk settings in a more community-driven environment. As these protocol parameters begin to be transitioned completely towards community ownership. We are really looking forward to having insightful guidance on behalf of grantee-driven research. But still, our top priority is towards international growth. We did have a budget of $2 million for international growth, and we've only allocated about 13% of that so far. It's obviously trickier to find the right opportunities on the international growth side, but we are very eager and just very optimistic that we'll be able to continue to find good events to sponsor, good workshops to host across different communities, good kind of sponsorships and marketing campaigns, and lots of different initiatives on an international setting in order to continue expanding the dYdX brand name and building communities in new areas and kind of building additional customer base. So that's kind of where our head is at right now. That's pretty much, say that's about it on the update side.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Carl. No, that's really interesting. Looking forward to seeing the impact those research papers and the Academy and merch store has as well. I think a lot of people are pretty excited about that. Cool. Will, appreciate you coming on pretty last minute and kind of just coming in to talk through your grant and what you've been working on. I guess it would be great for you to describe a little bit about yourself and to hear more about you and your background first.
Yeah, definitely. So I got into crypto about 2 years ago. Initially, just as a retail trader. My background in terms of professionally is that I studied sort of quantitative trading at university, and out of university, I've worked at a macro hedge fund in Sydney, and subsequently moved me up to London. And in that role, a lot of what I do is really designing trading systems, designing trading algorithms for this hedge fund. So they're in sort of more TradFi type products, things like stocks and bonds. But in my spare time, I like to sort of cross dabble some of what I do at work into the crypto space. So some of the tools that I've created are sort of a natural fit to what I sort of work on professionally at the hedge fund that I'm at.
Awesome. No, that sounds great. I guess what got you interested in it initially? Have you always kind of been, I guess, I know you studied at a university, but sort of like growing up, was that always an interest of yours, trading, etc.?
Yes. So I've always at the university, I sort of always wanted to get into trading. I've always sort of had a small stock account and things like that. So I've always been quite interested. And then I guess the good thing about the crypto space and platforms like dYdX is that it's quite open for anyone sitting at home in their pajamas to sort of build out like quite complex trading systems. I know from work that like if you wanted to do the sort of same thing in like say the stock market or the bond market, you'd need to pay a lot of data fees and things like that. But with crypto, one of the great things is that a lot of the data and a lot of the access to the exchanges like dYdX is basically free for anyone who's just starting out. So it's all pretty open and fair game.
Awesome. And I guess the next kind of really seems a simple question, but who and what is Bayswater Capital?
Yes, so we're just three people, me, Charlotte, and Natasha. We met at university in Sydney, the University of New South Wales, and we used to do a lot of sort of trading competitions together at university. We just called ourselves Bayswater Capital. So when the grant came up and we all wanted to work on designing the tools, we thought we'd just call it the same thing.
Sweet. Yeah, and I guess we could then roll on to discussing those grants. I guess you obviously had a grant for the Monte-Carlo risk calculator and an educational post, and then the trading strategy bot and tutorial. It would be great for you to just talk through, I guess, what they are and how they're helpful.
Yes, sorry, I just dropped my phone. Yes, so on to the first thing I designed was a Monte-Carlo risk calculator. So one of the things that we use at work to measure like portfolio risk is using what's known as these Monte-Carlo simulations to essentially model the different correlations between different assets to understand how far like the portfolio of stocks that we might own could move in a single day or over the course of a week. So one of the issues that people on dYdX might find, of course, is that it's obviously a leverage. You can trade with leverage, and if you do trade on leverage, you need to maintain a certain level of margin. Otherwise, your position might get stopped out. But one of the things you can do to reduce the risk of getting margin called or stopped out on some of your positions is to run, say, for example, a long Bitcoin position against a short Ethereum position. And generally speaking, Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the cryptocurrencies in general are broadly correlated. They generally move in a correlated fashion. So if you're long one crypto and short another crypto, then the chances of those two cryptos in a portfolio getting liquidated is much less than, say, just having a long only Bitcoin delta exposure. So what the tool does really is it takes the historical distributions, return distributions of each cryptocurrency that's available on dYdX, and essentially uses a method called Monte-Carlo simulation to try estimate, if you had, say, one Bitcoin, one Ethereum, and a short two AVAX, what is the chance that that position or that portfolio of crypto assets would get liquidated in a 24-hour period. So that tool is quite. I think it's quite helpful if you're sort of looking to hold long-term crypto positions on dYdX using leverage, because otherwise and what the tool will tell you is how likely it is you might get stopped out, and if stopped out or margin called, and if it's a very high probability, perhaps you might want to reduce some of your exposure or reduce some of your risk, or otherwise you risk getting margin called. The other tool was the trading bots. So people might be familiar with other sort of platforms which provide sort of boilerplate code to build a automated market maker. So essentially what I did was I wrote a bit of code to which essentially allows people to plug their dYdX credentials into the Python script, and then select a cryptocurrency and then run the script. And what the script will do is essentially do what automated market makers do on exchanges, which is stream two-way prices on the order book. And that code is very adaptable and quite simply written. So it can be sort of adapted to not only different market making styles, but also can be adapted if you wanted to build, say, like a trading strategy on dYdX. That code can be found on obviously the grants page, but also the GitHub as well.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, so if anyone wants to find, I guess, this calculator, I take it's on the grants page and the project link, but also on your GitHub, Danny Archer Crypto dYdX Simulator?
Yes, it's on GitHub, and it's also actually there's also a Streamlit link now. So it's essentially a URL that you can click into, and the calculator will pop up, and you can just punch in the positions that you have on your in your portfolio, and then click simulate, and the simulations will come out and it'll spit out a probability of liquidation for you.
Awesome, thanks for that. And just from like a personal standpoint, I guess, how long have you been in the dYdX ecosystem for? What are your kind of future plans? Any more grants on the horizon potentially for you in the future? What's your future entail?
Yes. Well, I've been trading on dYdX for about a year now, since last September, the bull run last year, and I still sort of actively trade on dYdX, but it's definitely the strategies that I run on dYdX are a bit different now, because in the bull market sort of era, you had a lot of funding premium on dYdX versus other exchanges. But as dYdX has matured, and also as the market sort of cooled off in terms of the heat of the market, some of those funding trades aren't as profitable anymore. So nowadays, I generally just run sort of what you would call in the sort of financial world CTA type strategies. So I guess maybe people would be more familiar with technical signal type, systematic type strategies. So that's what I sort of run on dYdX on a personal level. In terms of grants, obviously we've completed these 2 grants, but also I'm working on another grant to try simulate and work out how rewards get distributed on dYdX platform, and how people can optimize some of their trades to try and maximize the rewards. Because one of the great things about trading on dYdX, as people would probably know, and one of the great things for me is that the more you trade, the more rewards you get, which essentially reduces the transaction costs of trading. So on other exchanges, obviously you get charged a flat fee, but on dYdX you also get charged a fee, but the fee accrues into a reward system. And if you can work out sort of how many rewards you might get within the pool of rewards versus the transaction costs, then you might be able to work out a better transaction cost structure for some of your trading strategies. So that's what I've been working on lately.
Yeah, I think that's definitely really interesting, and definitely would be really helpful for a lot of people who want to probably pay more attention and spend a bit more time diving deeper into it. I guess for you as well, with the current simulations, in terms of the user base you typically are using it, is it more sophisticated traders that are typically using this? Is it kind of retail friendly? Kind of what's your view on the typical, I guess, like user base for these types of grants per se?
Yes, so I think the risk calculator is definitely widely available to accessible to anyone of any sort of trading experience. It's this I've built it. Obviously, there's GitHub code for people who want to try build on top of it, but there's also a Streamlit page where people can just simply go to the URL, and then they can just put in their portfolio and click simulate, and it'll pretty much generate all the information that I generally use when managing my sort of crypto portfolio. In terms of the strategy bot, that probably is a bit more advanced. You probably would need to know a bit of Python coding to sort of get started on that. But certainly anyone who's looking down the route of like more systematic or more automated type trading, that's certainly a very good starting point for trying to build your own systems and getting started in terms of having an automated trading system on dYdX.
Awesome, appreciate that, Will. I guess finally, or actually, last question. I guess how can people find out more about you, Bayswater Capital? Are you active on like governance forums elsewhere? Do you participate in other sort of financial DAOs, etc.? Where can people sort of find out more about you and then sort of keep in touch?
Yeah, definitely. So I believe on the grants page you'll have a link to some of the tutorials that I've done on YouTube. So I'd like to create sort of YouTube videos with sort of guides as to how to do more to do automated trading in the crypto space. So they can follow me there. And also I'm on Twitter as Cryptolet. So that's the same as my Discord handle. And I post. I generally post a few things there on a few thoughts and tools on Twitter as well.
Fantastic. No, I really appreciate your time, Will. I guess that's all the pre-populated questions. know we haven't got a huge audience today, but does anyone have any?
Yeah.
Well, Carl, do you want anything?
I had a quick one as well, just because, Will, so the primary implementation of the market making pod is a TWAP strategy, right? And that's kind of the one that you can use out the box that you created, which is awesome because I think eventually.
Sorry, yes, I forgot to. Yes, there's
yeah, I would love to hear
strategies.
That are part of. Maybe you can talk about like the benefits of TWAPing, why somebody would be interested in using a TWAP bot versus doing it manually, for example.
Yes, awesome. Thanks, Carl. Yes, I forgot to mention. So yes, on the GitHub page, one strategy is just market making, which is essentially streaming a buy and a sell order in the order book and trying to capture sort of bid-ask spread. And then the other sort of trading strategy, in quotation marks, that's on the GitHub page is a time-weighted average price, or TWAP as most people probably know it. So essentially what that strategy does is a user can enter specified parameters. So, over the time period that you want to buy or sell a crypto, how the increments per buy or sell order. What the strategy will do is essentially, for example, say, you want to buy 5 Bitcoin over the course of an hour, it will buy 1 Bitcoin per 12 minutes. And essentially, a lot of retail traders, what they'll do when they want to enter into a long or short position is just buy the entire position at any given point. But as most people probably know, it's actually quite hard to time the exact bottom and the exact top. So instead of doing that, you can do this. You can use this TWAP strategy. So spread out the order. So if you wanted to say buy 5 Bitcoin, instead of buying 5 immediately, buy 5 over the course of 1 hour. And you get an average price of an average entry price into Bitcoin, and using that TWAP. And the benefit of that is essentially that you avoid entering into a trade at the exact top or bottom, or at a very, very adverse price, and instead you end up sort of averaging into a position.
Yeah, I'd say it's also pretty helpful for low liquidity markets, right? Given that you might not be able to enter into your desired volume on a market order or even a one fill limit order. And so breaking it up into tiny orders across 24 or 48 hours is going to have smaller impacts on the liquidity. It's going to be more easily digested by the market. And that way you're not like getting filled on an insane slippage.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Is there any other, like, do you see this being able, do you see kind of people who are interested in using the market making strategy being able to build other popular strategies that maybe you just like didn't build out the box?
Yeah, definitely. So one other implementation is, instead of a TWAP, you can use a value weighted price average. So the calculations that are a bit more complex, but you can find them online. So you can use a VWAP, which is a pretty common entry strategy, again in sort of traditional financial markets. And the other implementation with regard to sort of TWAP, VWAP type strategies is obviously an iceberg type of order. So sometimes if you have a very large order, sometimes it might be beneficial not to show the entire size of the order, but maybe just show a smaller size, and then once the small size gets filled, then the algo will put another order into the order book of the same size. In terms of like market making, I think some of the improvements, the bot essentially in market making, there's a few parameters that you can optimize that aren't optimized in the code. Because each market's quite different, so I guess the user sort of has to optimize it for what market they're trading, and also for how the market is at any given stage in time. But essentially, the bot currently just uses the middle of the bid and offer in the order book. So one way users could create a better market making algo is finding better ways to find the true mid, so to speak, of a certain cryptocurrency on dYdX. So one popular way of doing that would be to say, for example, look at the price of Bitcoin and on a few of the other exchanges and versus the price at dYdX, and say if all the prices on all the other exchanges are slightly higher than dYdX, then maybe the midpoint of Bitcoin on dYdX isn't just the middle of the bid and offer, but actually maybe it's somewhere a bit higher because all the other exchanges are trading higher. So users can do stuff like that to try better optimize the quote midpoint of the market making algo. And then the other parameter that people could optimize would be certainly the spread that they charge. So obviously, the less, the closer to mid that people charge on their buy and sell orders, the more likely to trade. But obviously, you might get what they call adverse trades the closer to mid you are. So, if you're closer to mid, you might trade more, but you might get a lot more bad trades. But if you're further out, you might get more good trades, but you might not trade a lot. So trying to optimize for the spread in each market is another thing that people could do. And then there are just sort of cosmetic, like hardware type things. So, obviously being able to stream quicker, or maybe use information from other exchanges, things like that are sort of further implementations that people could definitely take a look at with the code.
Awesome. Yeah. No, it's great. It's definitely a great space for additional work on top of for people that are interested. Cool. Yeah, James. Those were kind of a couple questions for me. I'm happy to open it up to any other questions if anyone in the audience wants to ask something.
Yeah, if anyone wants to ask anything to I guess me, Will, or Carl, by all means, raise your hand and come up. We can give it a couple of minutes, and if not, we can close the stage there. So I'll give you guys a minute or so. Will, just a personal one. How long do you think you're going to be staying in the UK for?
I'm indefinitely here. So there's no with regards to work. There's no set end time. But it's quite funny. Since I've got here, I like to tell people since I've got here, the Queen's died. We've kicked out Boris Johnson. The economy's sort of tanked itself, and now we've kicked out a second prime minister. Yeah. So I feel like if I leave the country, they might not let me in.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
I was just wondering whether this will apply over to V4, or are you hoping to work with the team so anything built out here can also be used in V4 launch as well?
Yes. So I will have to see, but the only thing that I can imagine that would change between now and V4 moving onto the Cosmos blockchain is just how users log into the dYdX API. So currently, to do that, you need to log into your dYdX account and then find your secret key, your star key, your Ethereum address, and other credentials. So I'm not sure how it works on Cosmos, but I assume that the credentialing will be slightly different. So there might need to be a slight tweak to the market-making algo code just to help people credential themselves into the dYdX API. But the Monte-Carlo simulation risk tool shouldn't have any issues migrating onto V4.
Okay, perfect. And a bit of a personal request. Would your team be willing to write up an article, this would be for advanced traders, of course, on how to use your risk tool for the dYdX Academy that we're hoping to launch?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll get in touch with Carl and James. And yeah, for sure. I'd be would be very happy to write a sort of explainer article to help the users. Yeah, for sure.
That's a great idea, Mo. Definitely, we'll want to host stuff like this that's getting built as part of a subsection in the academy, and having proper explanations and documentation around how they can use it will be super helpful.
Thank you, both of you. And by the way, Boris Johnson hasn't been kicked out. They're following him his route back to the UK. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I'll leave the stage now.
Cheers.
Bye now.
Thanks, man. All right, we can leave it there. Will, really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on and sharing your knowledge there. It's been really helpful. I'll put this onto YouTube hopefully by the start of next week. Appreciate you as well, Carl, coming on to discuss everything grants and asking questions there.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Will. Great job on these grants, and we're looking forward to seeing people use this more and more as it develops. But thanks a lot for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. You have a nice night or nice day.
Likewise. Yeah. Thanks all.